Next game we're talking about, Dalton, is actually Trevor Sickman was in the chat right now and asking us if we're going to talk about Billy Napier. Maybe we will a little bit. But next game we're talking about is Texas A&M beating Florida 33-20 in this game, even though Connor Wigman was out of this game. We'll talk about his replacement in just a second. But let's go over the highest graded players from A&M in this game. Amari Daniels was the highest graded at 75.6. Marcel Reed, who was the backup for Wigman, who started in this game, at 73.9 grade. Bryce Anderson at 72.5. Cyrus Allen at 72.4. And Ruben Fatheree II at a 72.4. Going to the Florida side of the ball in this game, Jason Marshall Jr. at an 80.7. Brendan Crenshaw Dixon at an 80.3. Cameron Waits at a 77.9. Elijah Badger at a 74.6. And Jake Slaughter at a 73.3. Dalton, what was the stat for you that told the story in this game?
For multiple reasons, I'll narrow it down to one stat, and it's probably one that was I was at a wedding, but I'm sure it was said on the broadcast. 73 total yards in the first half for the Gators. You're just not going to win like that. I think A&M took something like 51 snaps in the first half to Florida's 20. A&M's run game was rolling. The time of possession was rolling, and the Gators just look. I just don't get the alternating quarterback thing every drive. You need an offense, and they were without Trey Wilson. You need an offense that needs to find a rhythm, and we mentioned this during the preview too. Is look, I don't care which one you pick. I get it. This one's a veteran and safer, and the other one's talented, but kind of a wild card.
There's arguments for both.
There's arguments for both, but there's not arguments for both.
Yeah, for literally both.
It's alternating them every drive, and I know they were stagnant, and I know A&M had the ball forever, especially in the first half. But you can even see there were times when Mertz had the better rhythm in this game. You could see it late in the first half. You could see it early in the second half. He has the touchdown drive early in the second half, and they take him out anyway. I go, if you're trying to get back into this game, I don't know. The two quarterback thing, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then, honestly, Florida didn't run the ball well either. Montrell Johnson had 7 carries for -7 yards. They have to run the ball better regardless of who's at quarterback. So this was just an entire look. Obviously, they scored 20 points in the second half. I don't think the final score reflects how dominant A&M was in this game, and the first half was more reflective of that. Right, 20-0 on the scoreboard with a backup quarterback, 73 total yards for the Gators, and just it feels like a meltdown at this point, doesn't it? And I don't know what to say. And then I'll just roll into their defense real quick. It feels like. You're about to get into this, but it just feels like the same mistakes we've seen for as long as we've been doing this show. It's the same. The 2 touchdowns. I mean, you have more numbers on it, but it's the same. It's the same thing every week, is what it is.
It's just busted coverages. Not even like talent beating talent. Just busted coverages. Yeah. It's almost like you're not even putting your talent in a position to even succeed out there when you're doing that.
It's just I've said it. There's been mental mistakes with this Gator secondary for over a year.
Never been a talent issue either. It's never been a talent issue. It's just they are just messing up left and right, which at that point you got to start questioning coaching. And there's a lot of questioning the coaching right now in Gainesville. I can tell you that right now, including Trevor Sickman in our chat right now. But my stat that tells the story is about that. Florida in this game allowed a 145.3 passer rating in this game. It's the second time this year they've allowed a passer rating above a 127. The only other Power 4 team who has multiple games of a 127 passer rating allowed or better is West Virginia. And you're looking at this right now. They're playing a backup quarterback who is making his second career start in the swamp in Gainesville. Florida should have been licking its chops when they found out Connor Wigman was not playing in this game. And it looked like Connor Wigman was playing in this game, the way they were playing out there. Right now, the defense, Dalton, is allowing the second most EPA per play in the Power 5. Again, only West Virginia is allowing more than Florida is right now. Multiple coverage busts once again. It's so frustrating because it's like sometimes when you watch these defenses struggle out there, it's like, okay, this team is just so much more talented.
And you watch a lot of individual plays in this game, and you go, okay, that looks pretty good. They came out, especially early. I think eventually they did get gassed.
Yeah.
But early on, there was a lot of plays, like series of plays even, where I was like, okay, they're out here. They're out here playing hard. They're playing sound. Okay, and then it's just like it feels like that one big mistake just always comes.
Yep.
Whether it's a big play given up or they had several penalties in this game that hurt them bad on defense too. But it always feels like there's just something creeping up. Like there's just one play that kills all this momentum they had on the previous 6 or 7.
Yeah. So Don, you we're talking a lot about negative Gator stuff right now, but what actually impressed you from A&M, at least in this game?
Well, last minute you had Wegman sit out, and you have Marcel Reed in there, and you changed the whole game plan. 55 carries for 310 rushing yards, and you had the ball for almost 38 minutes. I mean, they just said, okay, we've got Marcel Reed's a really good athlete, and we're gonna ride this with Amari Daniels, with Le'Veon Moss, with Marcel Reed. This is how we're going to win today's game, and adjusting on the fly, and of course having a plan throughout the week. I'm sure they had somewhat planned for this. Okay, if Reed is in here, this is the package then we're going with, as opposed to Wigman, who's obviously more of a pocket passer. He's an athlete, but he's not the athlete you can tell that Reed is. To adjust on the fly and to get your ground, especially that time of possession, just under 37 minutes and 46 seconds. And they lined up for 51 snaps in the first half to the Gators 20. The run game and the adjustment to going run heavy, maybe even more than usual. Did this game, probably more so than their first two, look like a Mike Elko type of game?
It did. Yeah,
it just felt like a Mike Elko game, this one. And Reed, you're going to talk about Reed. I mean, really calm and cool under pressure. Man. To come in on short notice like that when they said Wigman was a game-time decision, big-time stuff from him, even though it was run heavy and they didn't ask him to do a lot, but he did everything they asked him to do.
So we found out last second that Marcel Reed was starting this game. Obviously, sometimes the team knows way earlier than that. Like, Reed probably knew way earlier than we did. But at the same time, like, even if he found out like a couple days ago, like, this is still like a quick turnaround in a really raucous environment in a big game. And Marcel Reed was so impressive. The redshirt freshman had an 83 rushing yards in this game, a rushing touchdown, broke 3 tackles on the ground, 178 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, no interceptions as well, 75.7 grade overall. Again, not an easy environment for your first career regular season start. And he delivered for A&M in this game. Dawn, I'll be honest, when Connor Wigman was announced that he was out, I was like, "Oh, Florida might have a shot here. Look, let's get this back on track and all that." And no,
we didn't know anything about Florida's QB situation, and then it was A&M's. I mean, this game was bound to be a circus in some sense, and it ended up being that.
Absolutely. So yeah, A&M ended up pulling out the victory, even without Connor Wigman playing at all in this game. So big shout out to Marcel Reed, the redshirt freshman, who, by all accounts, if Wigman does declare for the draft, which I don't know if he still will, but if he does declare, he could be the A&M starter next year for Mike Elko.
Absolutely. He's a really good athlete.
This could have been a tryout game. Like the Miller Moss Louisville Holiday Bowl, and we actually have an interview with Miller Moss coming out pretty soon. But I talked to him about that, and he's like, yeah, it felt like a tryout for me. This might have been for Marcel Reed, like, hey, this is a little bit of a tryout for me, too, if Wigman does end up declaring for the draft at the end of the year. So big-time shout-out to Marcel Reed. He was fantastic in this win for Texas A&M